Today was a day of surprises in crypto. The Cardano community found out that mind-blowing partnerships would be unveiled at the summit this month, while another blockchain community found out that its network could just start forking, and the response would be that the validators would elect to restart the network. And a lot of people were taken aback by what the chair of the SEC had to say about whether or not there are securities being traded on Coinbase. Ready? Let's go. Social media today was full of Cardano people begging other Cardano people not to make fun of Solana. While I think that is admirable, you guys are so nice, I think it is also okay to point out the various impacts of the different compromises that blockchains have made in trying to manage the blockchain trilemma. So we're definitely going to talk about it. I think Gavin Wood, founder of Polkadot, Ethereum, and creator of Solidity, got it right here, guys. He basically says, hey, decentralization and security are more valuable than some big TPS numbers coming from an exclusive and closed set of servers, in his words. He says, if you can't run a full node yourself, then it's just another bank. This is not new news. This is something we've encountered time and time again in crypto. We've had Binance Smart Chain for a while now. You can run really big scaling numbers if you heavily centralize your protocol. Solana started out the day letting its users know that it was experiencing intermittent instability and that engineers were investigating. Later, it said resource exhaustion in the network is causing a denial of service. The engineers were still working toward a resolution, and validators are preparing for a potential restart if necessary. I love all this euphemistic language. Later on, they kind of just dropped all the euphemisms and straight up told us some bad things happened that caused the network to start forking. And they also said, engineers across the ecosystem attempted to stabilize the network, but were unsuccessful. This caused no small amount of discontent. Here you see a post, this is not normal. Just market sold my sol back to eat that go. Tired of these meme chains. Good luck, everyone. This poster says, so you can shut down the whole decentralized network like that? This is ironic because this guy has hashtag BNB and hashtag BSN in his profile. This is a Binance guy. You got Binance guys making fun of your decentralization now. Of course, the Solana guys came back and they were trying to draw all kinds of distinctions about the network halting itself and the validators collaborating to get the network back up and running, that versus the blockchain needing to be restarted, all those kind of things. But I don't think it was lost on everybody that the blockchain was forking, according to Solana, and the validators did something that they characterized as electing to restart the network. This doesn't sound at all like decentralization when the threshold to become a validator is so high. But this is predictable. You've got the blockchain trilemma, which involves the quest to simultaneously achieve decentralization, security, and scaling or speed. And when you push so much towards the speed thing, the whole point of the blockchain trilemma is that you probably are making some compromises, both in terms of decentralization and security. At least you're compromising one of those two things, usually. Based on a lot of these responses, it looks like not everyone is happy with the compromises that have been made. People kept posting screenshots of this. Looks like it's from some Solana website. It says, decentralized and unstoppable. Not only in Solana, is Solana ultra fast and low cost, it is censorship resistant, meaning the network will remain open for applications to run freely and transactions will never be stopped. If that's from Solana, then I would guess that they didn't imagine that their network would be stopped like this when they say transactions will never be stopped. Or maybe what they really mean is, okay, we'll stop the blockchain for hours at a time, or the blockchain will stop for hours at a time. But don't worry, this group of validators will restart the network and then eventually your transactions will continue. But I think a lot of people were dissatisfied with trying to reconcile transactions will never be stopped with the blockchain stopping basically all day today. In Cardano today, it was a completely different story. We got this post from the head of brands and communications at the Cardano Foundation, Sydney Vollmer. Sydney Vollmer said, some of the partnerships we're announcing at the Cardano Summit will blow people's minds. Tune in. This is really interesting. So we know that the Cardano Foundation has been at least somewhat focused on the financial industry, but we don't really know. Are these partnerships going to be mind blowing because the Cardano Foundation has teamed up with a bunch of banks, or is it going to be mind blowing because they're going to announce partnerships with nation states? I wouldn't be surprised at all if it's the latter. I think Cardano kind of learned its lesson about nation state partnerships during the Tarako incident, the African bird thing. Charles hinted that he would have big news about African nation state partnerships or a partnership. And it kept getting delayed until eventually found out as the Ethiopian Ministry of Education, which was huge news. And I think Charles was right to be excited about it. But I wouldn't be at all surprised if Cardano has now learned its lesson and it kind of refuses to give any hints as to a timeline for nation state partnerships. This is kind of what I would expect given Cardano's history. They don't want to be caught in the African bird situation again, where they're taking all kinds of flack because they think a deal is going to happen and they can't quite announce it. I would expect something like this. They just say, hey, we've got some gigantic partnerships, but they don't tell us this is a nation state partnership. Then again, we could go to the summit and find out that it's a partnership with a big financial institution, which in economic terms could also be a huge partnership. On my part, I'm hoping they're talking about big nation state partnerships. More great news in Cardano. We also found out that over 100 smart contracts are running on Cardano mainnet. It's been 3 days. And we've already got 100 smart contracts running on the mainnet. Ghost busting successful. I think no one can really claim we're any longer a ghost chain. Well, people will still say that, but there won't be any factual basis at all for it anymore. And this isn't really a surprise to me. If you look at the top 10 blockchain projects, Cardano's the only one that's decentralized and has smart contracts running on proof of stake. Ethereum's got staking going on, but their smart contracts aren't running on that chain. The smart contracts will run on proof of stake once the merge happens. The thing that I think we all used to call Ethereum 2.0, now apparently Vitalik doesn't even want to call it Ethereum 2.0. And then you got Binance, which is always been criticized for being centralized. And now you've got Solana, and now there's this cloud hanging over Solana. And the cloud is composed of questions about things like centralization and reliability of the blockchain. Cardano is pretty much the only game in town in the top 10 in terms of Gen 3 blockchains that are decentralized. The thing is, decentralization doesn't just matter for consumer adoption and PR purposes. Decentralization might get really, really important over the next couple of years just for purposes of survival. We've been talking throughout 2021 about how there appears to be this mounting regulatory storm that is pushing its way toward the land of crypto. And today we saw Gary Gensler, the head of the SEC, in front of the Senate Banking Committee, and he pushed it even further. So here we have Senator Toomey. He's one of the senators that appears to be on crypto's side. He asked Gensler straight up, hey, there doesn't appear to be much regulatory clarity. We know you talk about the Howey test. We know you talk about the Reeves test. Howey was the original test that laid out the prongs for determining if something was an investment contract. Reeves was another case in 1990 that talked about mainly when loan contracts were investment contracts. But Toomey just straight up asked Gensler, how do we know? He said, hey, I'm a layperson. I'm not an SEC analyst. I can't tell what the criteria is for a crypto to be a security. And the best he could get out of Gensler was to get Gensler to admit that there are a small number of coins that aren't securities. That's the best he could get out of Gensler. He even asked Gensler what I think in the crypto space to all of us probably seems like a pretty straightforward question. He said, hey, one of the prongs of the Howey test is that the person buying the asset has an expectation of profit from the asset. He said, in the context of stable coins, if it's a stable coin and it's always going to be equivalent to, say, the US dollar, how can you have an expectation of profit if it's a stable coin? And Gensler straight up said that he still thinks that stable coins can be a security. And he went further to note that the SEC and the courts even once found whiskey casks to be securities. This is Gensler putting out the signal that they're going to take the broadest possible interpretation of all of the case law and all the precedent to call a very wide range of things securities. I mean, it would have been easy for the SEC to go ahead and say, hey, okay, stable coins. We'll at least give you stable coins. Stable coins aren't securities, but I don't think that's part of the agenda. I think the agenda is regulate crypto, regulate everything in crypto, especially DeFi. That means that they have to regulate stable coins. Stable coins have to be a security, whether it makes any sense or not. Gensler once again called crypto the Wild West, but he was actually one-upped by Mark Warner, who cited scary things that he had seen on the Intelligence Committee related to crypto and decided to call crypto the Wild West, and actually pointed out that he was one-upping Gensler and adding an extra wild. Senator Lummis, an obvious friend of crypto, was able to fluster Gensler by asking him if he was actually in favor of responsible innovation. Senator Daines of Montana also was putting in the work for crypto. He asked for a lighter touch approach to not drive innovation overseas. And then he said straight up, hey, you ask crypto companies to come in and talk to you, they do it, and then they find themselves the subject of enforcement actions or legal threats. So what is the SEC guidance process? And he basically got a non-answer. Daines asked, how do you not chill the marketplace with these vague speeches you're giving? Gensler again gave a non-answer about how crypto can't exist outside the regulatory framework. Don't think the dragon wasn't there. The dragon was back in full effect. And she hates crypto because a tentpole in her career was being tough on Wall Street, being tough on finance, creating financial inclusion, and she's not having it if some upstart crypto scene is the thing that creates financial inclusion. It was supposed to be her. So she proceeded to serve up the opportunity for Gensler to say that there are a bunch of securities on Coinbase. Yeah, they called Coinbase out by name. There are a bunch of securities on Coinbase, not just one, but a bunch. Then she decided she was going to attack DEXs. Gensler said he applauded her using, I can't remember if she used air quotes or something, but basically that gave Gensler the opportunity to point out that in his view, they are decentralized in name only. DeFi, he was actually talking about DeFi. DeFi is decentralized in name only, according to Gensler. And Warren then proceeded to cite Ethereum's high and unpredictable swap fees to claim there is no financial inclusion in crypto, since it would have been hard to withdraw funds last week without high fees, and that the most vulnerable, I'm paraphrasing here, these are not her exact words, the most vulnerable citizens would have been stuck in Ethereum as the market was going down last week because they wouldn't have been able to withdraw because of the high fees. And then she finished up by saying regulators need to step up to address crypto's regulatory gaps, and she expects Chairman Gensler and the SEC to take a leading role in getting this done. Guys, this is sock puppet theater. This is a very well choreographed agenda to regulate crypto and especially DeFi. decentralization is probably really going to matter in this over the next couple of years, which makes me really happy to be a part of the most decentralized Gen 3 blockchain in the top 10. And for the next week and a half, I'm going to be super excited to hear about these mind-blowing partnerships that are going to be revealed at the Cardano Summit. I hope you're excited too, and I will talk to you tomorrow.